Okay, this is line segments, lines, segments, and rays practice. So this was our second handout that we worked on. So here, the distinctions we're making are mainly between line segments, or just segments, lines, and rays. So a line, right, is going to be a straight path, and it's going to go on forever in both directions. So it's going to go on forever in opposite directions. Segments and rays are parts of lines. So a ray is going to contain one endpoint on the line, and then it's going to go forever in one direction. So here we have endpoint F, it's going forever through G. And then for segment, we have two endpoints and all the points in between. So number one here, they're giving us, we have to first determine if it's a segment, a ray, or a line. And then we have to name it. So CD here has two endpoints, endpoint C and D, so it's a segment. And we name it using the 2 points, so CD, and we want to put a line over it, indicating the segment. Okay. The second one is a ray. We know it's a ray because it's got one endpoint, and it goes forever in one direction. So it's going to be, we use the 2 points, X and Y. Okay. X is our endpoint, and it goes through Y to infinity or forever. So the endpoint is X, and it's going through Y forever, so the arrow is over the Y. Okay, segment 2 endpoints, so there's no arrows. Ray, there's one endpoint, and it goes on forever in one direction, so there's one arrow. 3 is also a ray. We have an endpoint Q, and it goes through R forever. Okay, so we want the arrow over the R. And again, we could write it the other way, RQ. But if we did that, again, the arrow still has to be over the R. So we have to put the arrow the other way. But this arrow is not telling us direction. It's just telling us the endpoint is Q. Okay, it's just letting us know which of the 2 points here, Q or R, is the endpoint. Okay, 4 is just a point. So we can call it either point L, or we can just say L. 5 is a segment. It's got 2 endpoints, so it's a segment, so that's NO. Again, note how you can write NO, segment NO, as segment ON, right? Segment NO and segment ON are the same thing, but you can't flip XY, right? Ray XY is different from ray YX. And the last 3 here, 6 and 7 are both lines. So 6 is a line because it's going on forever in 2 directions. So we can name it UV with the line on top, arrows over the U and the V. We can name it VU, right? Line UV is the same as line VU. Or we can use the symbol up here, that's N. So line N would also work. 7 is also a line. The 2 points on the line are H and I, so we can do HI with the line over it, or IH. Or we can name it line M based on this symbol, right? M is not a point, just like N wasn't a point. It's just the symbol representing the line, naming the line for us. Okay, 8, we have one endpoint K. Then it goes through J to forever. So our arrow is going to be above the J. Okay, one arrow because it's a ray. The arrow is above the J. Next side of the page. We want to name all the points. So again, there's an infinite number of points here, but the ones that are labeled are A, B, C, D, E, and F. So A, B, C, D, E, and F. Okay, those are the 6 points they have labeled. We want to name 3 rays. So we want to pick an endpoint and then go forever in one direction. So how about BA? Okay, so our endpoint is B. Second point is A. The arrow is over the A because the endpoint is B and we're going through A forever. We can do BC. Again, the arrow is over the C because we're going through C, starting at B and going through C forever. And then the last one shown on here is BE. B is the endpoint, and it's going through E forever. So the arrow's over the E. It's a B. Two line segments. Okay, so there's lots of different choices here. We can do AB. Just put the bar over it. Again, no arrows because it's a segment. It's got two endpoints. A and B are both the endpoints of the segment. Then we could also do, BD. B and D are the two endpoints of the segment, so BD with the bar over it. So it says name the line in two ways. So in this diagram, there's a bunch of lines in the diagram that aren't drawn. But if we want to pick the line that is drawn, that's going to be this one right here because it's got the two arrows going in two opposite directions. So if we wanted to name that line, we just have to pick 2 points on the line. So AC, and we put the line on top above the A and the C because it's going in both directions. We could also do AB. Right? We could have done BC, CB, CA, CB. All of those would have worked. Last diagram on here wants us to name the line that contains point Q. So here's point Q. So again, you could draw lots of lines on here that aren't shown all the way. The only one with arrows going in both directions all the way is going to be this line right here. So we want to name this line containing point Q. So ST would work. And we put the line, the arrows on both sides of the line. You could also do SQ, QT, TQ, TS, QS. Those would all work. B is asking for two opposite rays. So opposite rays need to meet two conditions. The two rays need to share the same endpoint, and they need to form a straight line. So you generally want to, if you're going to name opposite rays, you want to start in the middle. So the middle here is Q. So we pick one direction. Let's go up to S. So here is ray QS. And the arrow's over the S because we're starting at Q, endpoint Q, and going through S forever. And our opposite ray might be, or has to start at Q because it has to have the same endpoint, and it has to form a line, so we have to go down, and that means we're going to go through T. So that's going to be ray Q, T. The arrow over the T because we're going through T forever. Okay, name the endpoint of QT. Well, the endpoint of QT is just where the ray starts, and the ray starts at Q. So point Q, Q, or you could put points Q. All right, then we want to name all the points that are on line ST. So again, line ST was this line that we named. The 3 points that, again, there's an infinite amount of points on the line. The 3 that are labeled are S, Q, and T. Points S, Q, and T. Okay, and that's it for this one.